On April 28, 2019, 4 family members were systematically executed in their home in Westchester, Ohio. Officers arrived only minutes after neighbors reported hearing gunshots. They found no signs of a struggle from any of the victims, nor any attempt by the killer to clean up the crime scene. What they did find was a single member of the household left alive. The survivor, shaken and at times incoherent, offered scattered details of what had transpired. Later, however, he would tell the full story, one that seemed to explain everything. That is, if anyone believed him.
Is your wife one of the people that's in here?
My wife, deceased. My mom, dad.
Everybody inside is deceased.
What is that?
Dead.
Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is a bit of a roller coaster. A family massacred, a bizarre story told by the only survivor, surprising motives, and twists and turns in the courtroom. Let's take a look. At 9:40 p.m. on April 28, 2019, several calls were placed to 911 from the Lakefront apartment complex in Westchester, Ohio. Callers told emergency services that a man was running door to door, banging on one after another, hysterically pleading for them to call police. A call was eventually placed directly by this panicked man.
911.
Yes, ma'am, listen.
Where are you at? Where are you at? Do you have an address?
Yes, my wife.
What's going on?
My wife wanted to get out.
I'm sorry for what's going on?
My mom.
Did you say your wife?
Yes.
I can't understand you. What's going on?
Please send that.
I will send help, but I need to know what's going on. Can you say it again?
Yes, ma'am, my wife, my family, my wife, my dad, my mom, and my aunt.
They're all down?
Yes, please.
What? Okay, what happened?
Hello, please, down here.
Have they been shot? Have they been stabbed?
I don't know. Man, please send somebody. I don't know anybody. We can't.
You say you killed them?
No, what are you talking about?
Sir, did you do something to them?
No, I just got home.
Okay.
3+20. Have the caller meet us out front and wave us down if they can.
Multiple officers from the Westchester PD responded to the building. They found 37-year-old Gurpreet Singh waiting for them outside of his family's apartment unit.
3+20. We got contact with an individual outside of 4562.
Down on the ground. Down on the ground. Lay on your belly.
I'm gonna step around him.
Please, my wife, please. My family, my wife.
What happened?
I don't know. Everybody bleeding.
Is there anybody else in there except for your family?
No. My wife, everybody.
Hey, Joe. Come up here.
As he was placed in handcuffs, officers noted that Gurpreet had visible blood on his hands and clothing. Through some incoherent wailing, he explained that when he found his wife, he had held her and attempted to give her water.
How are you so bloody? How are you so bloody?
I tried to feed the water. No,
3+20, we have 2 individuals down. Full amount of blood in the front living room.
How are you covering so much blood?
I have my wife on my lap. She tried to feed the water. No
3+20 clear.
Okay, stay there.
Yes. Please.
Andy, more coverage up here.
I'm not
You
going
got it,
anywhere.
go.
Please help them.
We got you, we got you.
Please help them. Please help them.
Gurpreet slowly began offering details of what had led to his 911 call. He had returned and found the door to his family's home wide open. Inside, he found all 4 adult family members injured and non-responsive.
So you just got home from work, right? Did you find the front door open? You did? Okay. And when you walked inside, what happened? What was the first thing you saw? Fire is out.
My mom, my wife, my aunt,
Were they all laying down?
all on the
Laying on the floor?
yes.
Were they responding at all to you?
I tried.
They weren't breathing.
No one speak.
And then you called us right away.
I call you.
Okay.
I call you.
Did you kneel down and get blood on you? Okay.
Just inside the apartment door, officers found Gurpreet's aunt-in-law, 58-year-old Amarjeet Kaur, on the floor in the hallway. She had been shot twice in the head. Only feet from her was his wife, 39-year-old Shailenderji, on the kitchen floor. Shailenderji was shot 3 times and lay with her arm over her head in the kitchen. Her mother, Amarjeet's sister, Parmji, was collapsed on the living room floor. Parmji had 4 wounds to the head, 1 wound on her finger and her right forearm. Finally, Hakiaka, Gurpreet's father-in-law, was lying in the bedroom with his arms tucked around him. He had the most wounds. He was shot 8 times in the head. On the stove, a pan of tea had burned and the smoke detector was going off. Forensics would later identify 16 total shots fired, all from the same 9mm handgun. The murder weapon was not found in the home. There were no signs of any attempted cleanup of the scene. No blood was found on taps, in sinks, or on countertops. There were also no signs of forced entry. Outside of the apartment complex, detectives arrived and began to make sense of the bloody scene. They began with attempts to calm Gurpreet, who appeared in a state of shock, responding slowly to their prompts and displaying general confusion.
Basically, I got to get information out of you to be able to help everybody involved, okay? So you're very, very important to me right now, okay? And I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that, but the more info I get, the better I can do my job, okay?
Eventually, Gurpreet explained he drove truck for a living. He had left home earlier that afternoon to check on his semi. He found his family upon his return. Gurpreet told detectives that his friends in America called him Gary.
When did you leave tonight? Because it's my understanding you left and then came back.
Fire Charles 93, clear.
I left.
Take your time. You don't remember? All right. Was it daylight out or was it dark out? Daylight? Okay.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
can I see my wife?
Not right now, sir.
It's okay. Okay, please tell me if she's okay.
Is your wife one of the people that's in here? She
My
is
wife,
deceased.
my mom, dad.
Everybody inside is deceased.
What is that?
Dead. Okay? That's why it's very, very important for you to hold together and help me out so we can figure out what happened tonight, okay, Gary? I need you to be strong for me, Gary. Okay?
Gurpreet was brought to the station for further questioning. He was ushered into a soft interview room, one designed for witnesses and family members, not suspects. Detectives managed to calm him down. At first, Gurpreet began providing necessary details. He explained that he left home late that afternoon to work on his semi-truck, which was parked on Mulhauser Road. He was fixing a broken taillight and checking oil levels. Then, he stopped by a UDF to get gas before driving home. His children, aged 3, 8, and 11, were with his cousin for dinner that evening, who lived only a few miles from the lakefront apartments. While in the interview room, he asked to speak with his children a total of 36 times.
Can you please call my kids? Call who? My kids. My babies. Your kids? Yeah. I'm not. We're just gonna hear something, okay? Here's the thing. You call 911. Something bad happened. Yeah. They all believe. I understand. We need to know what happened. go to my truck.
Okay, what time did you leave?
I don't remember. I come back. I go.
Take your time. Take your time.
I see my mom. Yes, I see my mom. And I see my wife. And I see my aunt. They bleed and they on the ground. And I am just running, trying to shake them, trying to see what happened to them.
It looks like somebody killed them.
Oh, it does.
But why? I don't know. That's why I need your help. That's why I'm walking through this timeline with me so we can figure out where you were, who maybe has a problem with you, or your dad, or your mom, or your aunt, or business partners, somebody at church, ex-boyfriend. Help me.
So you're saying someone killed my family?
I think so.
Why?
I don't know. That's why you're here to help me. Who would do this, Gary?
Sir, I don't
Help me.
As soon as I know any clue, you will be the first person to know that I'm so bad.
Of his relationship with his wife and in-laws, Gurpreet painted a happy picture. Multi-generational living is the norm in their culture, and he claimed the dynamic in their household was amicable.
How was your relationship with your folks? With your mom?
Just fine.
Good.
Yeah. We lived together since I got here in USA, and nothing wrong, no problem whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you guys ever argue or fight more than normal?
Not at all. Not even normal argument. Not at all.
What, does your dad run any businesses?
He worked at a factory.
Okay. But before that, did he run a business?
Him and I had a gas station, but that's when
Okay.
they went away.
Did you guys owe anybody money?
No,
From that gas station?
no, my dad did, but it was all paid back.
Your dad did owe somebody money?
Yes, but I know he paid it back. I know, because he's hold his land in India.
What about your wife? How's your relationship with her?
Fine, we have 3 kids.
How long have you been married?
2002.
2002?
Yes, long time.
Have you ever separated for any reason?
No, never. Always, she is a really good mom.
I hate to have to ask you this question. I'm going to. Has your wife ever been unfaithful to you?
Always faithful, no problem.
Okay. Have you ever been unfaithful to your wife?
Always faithful, never problem.
Has your mom and your dad always been faithful?
Never problem. Sir, sorry to interrupt you. It doesn't happen in Punjabi culture.
Okay.
Yes, but if it does, then it won't be cheating. It will be complete separation. It won't be like wife or husband are cheating but still living together. No. If they're together, otherwise
Okay.
Tensions in the interview room escalated quickly when detectives invited Gurpreet to consent to a gunpowder residue test and to hand over his clothing for forensic testing and analysis. At that stage, Gurpreet insisted upon leaving. He told them, "My family is shot. I want to go to my kids." Officers blocked him at the doorway.
Tell him everything you want him to ask me.
Gary, we're gonna get
Sir, please.
We are gonna get a search warrant for your hand.
Please,
You have to stay here.
please. No, get your search warrant. Come to me. Do
No,
whatever
you have to
want.
stay here
Why?
because I said so.
No. No.
We are getting a search warrant.
No.
Yes,
No,
that's how that's gonna go.
Okay, go search.
Have a
whatever.
seat.
Why? No, I want my lawyer. I don't want.
Okay, then have a seat.
I don't want to do anything with you.
I understand. Then sit down.
Why? No, I don't want to sit down.
You have to sit down
Why?
because I asked you to.
Why
You're
did
not
I do? What did I do wrong? Sir, please.
You're going to stay here, and that's final. That's it.
Okay,
As
arrest
soon
me.
as we get,
Arrest me.
you're under detain. You're in
No,
custody
no,
right now.
no. I don't understand detain or whatever.
Back into the room.
You arrest
Back
me.
into the room.
You need to get back in this room.
Look, he told me now that my family was shot. I thought it was an accident.
You thought what was an accident? 4 people died and you thought it was an
Yes.
accident?
I wasn't told anything.
Because we have to maintain the integrity of any potential evidence that could be on you.
Okay, I'm not giving you anything unless I have my lawyer.
Okay.
Is that clear?
I understand. Have a
That's
seat.
it.
Have a seat.
Yes.
A search warrant was obtained. Gurpreet was stripped of his stained clothing, photographed, and samples taken from his hands and under his fingernails. He appeared outraged at the treatment. In total, Gurpreet was at the station from 10 p.m. that night until his eventual release at 6 a.m. the next morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Westchester Police Chief Joel Herzog. I'm here to just give you a little bit of information about the tragic events we had yesterday. At about 9:40 last night, we received a 911 call at 4562 Windtree Drive of 4 people down. Officers responded from the Westchester Police Department along with the Ohio State Highway Patrol. We located 4 people deceased inside from apparent gunshots. The officers cleared the scene and an immediate search of the area began with the Fairfield K-9 and the Ohio State Highway Patrol Air Unit for any suspects.
As investigators interviewed neighbors at the lakefront complex and searched the surrounding area for evidence, namely the murder weapon, others close to the family provided law enforcement with the victim's background and how they came to live in Westchester, Ohio. Gurpreet and his extended family were from Punjab, a state in northern India. There, he had been raised in a land-owning family until the age of 20, when he was wed to Shalinderji through an arranged marriage and moved with her to the United States. It had been Gurpreet's father-in-law that had first emigrated. Already married to Shalinderji's mother, Parmji, Hakiyaka had obtained a Canadian visa first, later traveling to the United States, where he aimed to launch a business operating gas stations. His business ventures, however, were failures. After the last attempt in Kentucky, the family relocated to Ohio, where Gurpreet launched his own trucking business. He reportedly spent 70 to 80 hours a week on the road, but his efforts were paying off. In early 2019, Gurpreet was able to put down a deposit on a 5-bedroom, newly built home in Indiana. He also began the process of sponsoring his own parents to move to America. They, too, would live with him. Members of his extended family, however, on his wife's side, told investigators that the situation was far from the rosy picture that Gurpreet was painting for them. He was the main breadwinner of the household, and money was a concern. His mother-in-law had recently convinced her sister, Amarji, who had been widowed a decade earlier, to move from India and join them. The women both worked part-time folding towels at a local laundromat. Hakiyaka, following his business failures, had developed an affinity for Johnny Walker Black and struggled with alcoholism. Arguments between the men were not uncommon, which had even prompted the patriarch to move from the extended family home and retain his own apartment. What's more, according to family, Hakiyaka remained in possession of land in India worth an estimated $1 million. In the months before the massacre, Gurpreet had been urging him to sell so they could pocket the money. Arguments followed. Should his father and mother-in-law pass, along with his wife, Gurpreet would be in line to inherit the land. This, their family claimed, gave him motive to kill all of them. News of the murders shocked the local Sikh community to the core. It is a faith that is based on principles of equality and service to humanity.
It's definitely sad. It's a tragedy for the entire community. But I would definitely say that this doesn't reflect who we are as a community.
Shalinderji is remembered as a kind and loving friend, as well as a great mother. So too was her aunt, Amarji, who raised 2 boys on her own after the death of her husband. Family recalled that she was soft-spoken, gentle, and that everyone loved her. Of Parmji, family said she was an adoring grandmother who who loved to share Punjabi stories of mythology and history. The older woman's brother, Ajay Singh, spoke of their loss.
It was my blood. I feel like, if it was outside in the street, I could, punch his face or do something worse.
On July 2nd, 2019, Gurpreet was arrested at a Walmart in Bradford, Connecticut, where he had traveled for a family wedding. The results of the GSR testing on his hands had come back positive. He spent a month in the New Haven jail before being extradited to Ohio, where he would stand trial.
Come! Walk in! Walk in! Walk in!
Police had recovered the gun used in the killings. They were directed to search the lake directly behind the apartments, following statements from a witness who reported hearing loud bangs that they later realized were gunshots around 9:15, followed a few minutes later by the sound of a splash in the lake. The gun retrieved from the water was the 9mm handgun they had sought. The serial number had been removed. Gurpreet Singh retained attorneys from Richgers & Richgers law firm and went to trial in October 2022. He faced a potential death sentence if convicted. During opening statements, defense counsel introduced a new claim, one that seemed to come from left field. Charlie Richgers pinned the murders on the Indian land mafia. He told the jury that Gurpreet's father-in-law had amassed an enormous amount of debt while he still lived in India. He had been forced to use his land to make things right. The details of the land deal that Hakirika had entered into are unclear, but he had reportedly made a dubious agreement with two shady individuals by the names of Kuldeep Sikhan and Shabazz Nagra. Of these men, Sikhan was wanted by the FBI and Interpol. The other, Nagra, was reported to be in the Cincinnati area when the murders took place. Indeed, the land mafia in India are very powerful and a very real problem. The defense argued Gurpreet's father-in-law had become financially entangled with these dangerous individuals, and it was far more likely that this is what had gotten the entire family killed. Meanwhile, Gurpreet's financial motive was also called into question. According to Gurpreet's family, he was set to inherit acres of land from his parents. He had a trucking business worth $250,000 with a truck and trailers. He also had a house in Indiana worth $300,000. Richgers told the jury that Gurpreet had already returned home when three masked men broke into the apartment with baseball bats. He ran from the scene to save himself. When Gurpreet came back, everyone was dead. Because there were 4 adults killed in separate rooms with 2 exits, the murders were probably committed by more than one person, he argued. Of course, this was the first anyone had heard of the armed masked men. Through hours of questioning, beginning at the scene and later at the station, Gurpreet had not once mentioned these mystery attackers.
The defendant ever once mentioned any law enforcement officer that you are aware of this story we've heard from defense counsel about 3 unknown attackers breaking into his house armed with baseball bats, chasing him out of the house, threatening him to not tell the police at any point in time?
No, sir.
Neighbors testified that they heard what were likely gunshots at about 9:15 p.m. Cell phone data, GPS tracking from his vehicle, as well as surveillance footage placed Gurpreet traveling home just after 9. At 9:05, he was captured at a gas station 2 miles away from Lakefront Apartments. He spoke with his cousin who was caring for his 3 children. Gurpreet told him not to drive them home to the apartment. He would pick them up on his way home from checking on his truck. Gurpreet did not, however, collect his children as he said he would. Instead, he drove straight to the apartment complex, arriving at his door at 9:11.
The vehicle recorded began at 9:05 and 13 seconds and ended at 9:09 and 40 seconds. That is the last recorded breadcrumb.
The shots were heard by multiple witnesses minutes later. Gurpreet's call to 911 was not placed until 9:40 p.m., a full half an hour after he returned home. He was either the shooter or, according to the new theory, hiding from the Indian mafia when the shots were fired. Experts hired by Gurpreet's attorneys said that gunshot residue was bound to be found on his hands because he had touched the victims. He had held his dead wife in his arms.
It could be that if there was a victim shot at close range to the head, based on your knowledge of GSR, that victim's hair would have GSR throughout, correct?
Yes.
And so if an individual grabbed the victim by the head or hair, we would expect that individual to have GSR on his hands, right?
Correct.
And with secondary transfer, if you touch your hands together, it can transfer from one hand to the next, right?
Yes, it can.
Gurpreet's bloody clothing had also been analyzed. A forensic expert found that not all of the stains were transfers. Indeed, a spatter stain was identified on the back of his red shirt. This could not have been acquired after the murder, only during. Yet, defense counsel logically argued that if Gurpreet was the shooter, these stains would have been on his front, not on his back. The defense argued that the physical evidence provided reasonable doubt. Their expert testified that the lack of spatter on the front of Gurpreet's shirt actually indicated that he was not the shooter. Ritger said the only blood on Gurpreet was that of his wife, rather than all 4 victims.
What, if any, conclusion or significance is there that in that deep BCI DNA report, Parmji, Amarji, and Hakikat's DNA was not found on Gurpreet or his clothing?
Well, again, sir, I just told you with respect to Parmji and Hakikat, mainly those shots were from very close range. So I think it would be impossible for a shooter to make those shots with having some blood spatter back on them as well. In my opinion, I think it'd be impossible for a shooter to come in here and shoot 4 people and only have one person's DNA, and that can be accounted for by him holding his wife because he found her.
Ritgers further argued that although the murder weapon had been recovered, there was no evidence presented that linked it to Gurpreet Singh. Finances may not have been the only reason that Gurpreet could have wished his wife and in-laws dead. In March 2019, just 1 month before she was killed, Shalinderji opened a bank statement and found a $20,000 check made out to a woman named Navkiran Kaur. Shalinderji knew Navkiran. She was the ex-wife of another semi-truck driver. Navkiran had an ugly divorce from her abusive husband, who had subsequently sold their house to a cousin for $1. She needed money to repurchase it. Gurpreet, it seems, wished to provide her with the deposit. He had also given her a new vehicle to drive. According to witnesses, Shalinderji had confronted her husband about the money only weeks before she died. He did not deny providing it, but he would not admit who Navkiran was to him. His mistress. Shalinderji was hurt further when she learned that Navkiran lived in the same subdivision in Indiana where they were building their house.
I did not want a divorce, but my ex-husband sold this house or transferred this house to my cousin for $1.
And while that divorce was going on, did you turn to the defendant for help?
Yes, I did.
Now, as this divorce is going on, and the nature of your relationship with completely changed. What I mean by that is, did it become romantic?
Yes.
At that time, did you know that the defendant was married?
Yes.
Did the two of you begin, that being you and the defendant, a sexual relationship?
After my divorce.
During the time period that your relationship with the defendant was romantic, he was helping you with the mortgage, giving you the car, did the two of you ever discuss getting married?
When I got divorced, at one time, he did ask me, what is your plan?
So the defendant asked you if he had been single, would you consider marrying him?
Yes. And I said, if my parents agreed, then I would.
In closing arguments, the state pleaded with the jury to see through the nonsense theory of the crime presented by the defense and to hold Gurpreet Singh responsible for the horrific murder of his family.
5 people are alive in an apartment, and 30 minutes later, 4 of them are dead and only 1 person remains. And that person has gunshot residue covering both of their hands. And that person lies to the police about when they arrived at the crime scene and everything else. They ask you, they beg you, they're pleading you. Hold their killer accountable.
His excesses with his mistress are hurting his finances. He's paying for her house. He's paying for her car. He's paying for her insurance. He's spending $2,000 a month on it. While at the same time, trying to maintain his own family's lifestyle of paying rent on their apartment, gas, his truck. And not only that, he buys a house in the same neighborhood. He's paying for that. At any point in time, this defendant could have told this fantasy of unknown attackers. He said nothing about the things that his lawyer now claims.
The defense pointed to witness testimony that a hooded figure was spotted running from the direction of the scene that night towards the tree line of the apartment complex property.
The person was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, hooded, and was running with one arm, cradling the front pockets of the hooded sweatshirt. That's what you described to the police. Into this southwest tree line. Before the police arrived.
They also pointed to what they said were gaps in the case against their client. Though friends had recounted instances of tensions between Hakiyaka and Gurpreet, there was no evidence of angry messages or correspondence between Gurpreet and his family. There were no incriminating internet searches. One might expect to find Gurpreet had researched the murder, searched for ways to acquire a weapon, to clean up after himself or the scene, for example. Finally, there were no follow-up messages to his mistress. He did not reach out and say, "Now we can be together."
25 electronic devices are searched, including Gurpreet's cell phone, all of the victim's cell phone, text messages, emails, photographs. No indication whatsoever. In fact, the contrary, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that Gurpreet was planning to, that he was violent at any point. Nothing. The land dispute. We do know, and witnesses did testify to this, that there was a land dispute. And you want to talk about money. May 7th, the detective and other Westchester police officers received an email from Harmjeet's brother, Ajay, that talked about Aldeep Saikar and Shabazz Nagar. And in that is the first time, apparently, the government heard of landmine, which a simple Google search will tell us that there is a Punjab mafia in India related to land.
The defense called only a single witness to the stand, their forensic expert, compared to the 41 individuals who testified for the state. Evidence was presented over 10 days. Gurpreet Singh chose not to offer his version of events under oath. After the first day and 14 hours of deliberations, the jury had not reached a verdict. They reached out with a request to review the transcript of the testimony given by the state's blood expert. Judge Greg Howard denied the request, stating that jurors needed to rely upon their own memories of what was said in the courtroom. Further deliberations brought further grievance. It was reported that jurors number 111 and 83 had a shouting match, leading to 83 issuing a letter to the judge requesting that they be removed and replaced by an alternate. She stated that she had been insulted and ignored in the jury room, been called ignorant and stupid, and no longer felt safe to continue deliberations. Once again, Judge Howard refused. When the jury returned to court, they were hung. 11 votes for conviction. One juror, the individual who had requested removal, had voted to acquit.
She told us the first day of deliberation that she's not budging.
The very first day
of deliberation. I think she came in with a conclusion and she was not willing to budge on her opinion. I think her conclusion was set before trial.
I feel bad. I feel ashamed, that we didn't give their family some kind of closure on this. It's been 3 years, and now we got to wait for another year probably for a trial. So. He was covered in blood. It's a bloodbath. So, it's obvious. It's 4 dead people. He's sitting there. Whose other blood could it be?
Prosecutor Michael Moser declared his intention to retry the case. He also expressed his frustration with Judge Howard for refusing the jurors the transcript for review and failing to replace the 2 who were arguing. The prosecutor accused the judge of intentionally prompting a mistrial and called for his recusal from the case.
There are only 4 words to describe my decision to move forward with another trial. And those 4 words are yes and hell yes. There will be a request by me upon the judge to recuse himself from the next trial. And upon that refusal, I will seek a recusal from the Supreme Court.
A recusal by Judge Howard was ultimately denied, though he would not have sole oversight in the retrial. For this second time around, Gurpreet Singh's defense requested a bench trial. Because he faced the death penalty, his fate would be determined by 3 Butler County judges, one of which was Judge Howard. That was not the only change. It seems that over years of fighting the case, the $300,000 that Gurpreet was reported to have in home equity, the $250,000 from his business, and other funds had dried up. He was declared indigent and assigned a public defender. When the retrial commenced in the spring of 2024, his new representation also presented a brand new defense. Gone was the recollection of 3 masked men with baseball bats that had chased him from his home. Instead, they argued that Gurpreet was present when the murders took place and that he was intentionally left alive so that he would be blamed for the massacre.
Who had the opportunity and who was actually physically present in that apartment.
While he was there, he did not pull the trigger. He could not have been the shooter, and the background proves that someone else orchestrated this crime.
Again, the defense called only one witness, the neighbor who heard the gunshots, followed by a sighting an undetermined amount of time later of what he believed was a hooded figure running towards the trees. After less than 3 hours, the 3-judge panel returned with their verdict. Guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder. The decision was unanimous. So too was their decision on the appropriate sentence.
We, the 3-judge panel, do hereby unanimously find that the aggravating circumstance that the defendant was found guilty of committing does outweigh the mitigating factors presented in this case by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We, therefore, unanimously find that the sentence of death should be imposed upon Gurpreet Singh under count 1 of the indictment.
As a matter of process, an execution date of November 27, 2024 was also set at the time of imposing the sentence. However, Gurpreet Singh's case will automatically go through the formal appeals process, which rendered this date unrealistic. Gurpreet Singh is currently 42 years old and incarcerated at Ross Correctional Institution. His parents' application to immigrate to the United States was ultimately denied on the basis that their sponsor was a convicted murderer. His 3 children have relocated to California, where they are cared for by relatives of his deceased wife. And that was the tragic case of Parmjit Kaur, Amarjit Kaur, Shalinder Kaur, and Hakia Singh Penang. Thank you for joining me, and a special thanks goes to Stephen0327 for joining our Members Lounge. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one. Find my seat. Kevin, go ahead and settle in. Gotta be selective, doing all the research, keeping it objective. Always been effective, can say he got a knack. Pick of the litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you